Thank you. Yeah, welcome everybody. It's a 3-country participants seminar today about business opportunities in China after COVID-19. And I'm very happy to be here together with my colleague Max Butek from the AHK in Guangzhou. He is our Southwest China expert, because China, as you know, is not a country, it's a continent almost. And so also we, as the AHK network, which AHK is German and stands for Auslandshandelskammer, that means in English, German trade chambers abroad. And this is a global network of about 120 offices in over 90 countries, where we have over 50,000 companies. We all are there to support the bilateral trade between Germany and the respective host country. And so also we have it in China. There I think we have 5 offices, or at least 5 regions. And Max Butek is here, and that's very good and a great combination, because he knows the Baltic states, because he has been here a couple of years ago for almost 3 years as a deputy CEO, and then moved on in our network. And so I welcome everybody also from Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. And you can see the AHK network is a global one, and we are now trying to build a bridge between the Baltic states and China, and really see what opportunities are there. And I'm an economist by education, and so I looked at the numbers, and so I have 2 news for you out of this. First of all, Germany is more or less stable in the trade relations with China. We managed to have a trade surplus with China, which not many countries manage. So it means we export more than we import. It's in the range of 105 billion exports last year, and imports about 80 billion, so 20 billion difference. More or less same level like 2014. In 15 and 16 it went a bit down to 86, but all other years more or less stable. Whereas when we look at the Baltic states, we have a clear growth tendency. So Estonia, if I take 5 years, started with 225 and is now with almost 300 million. Whereas Latvia has raised from 150 to 200, and Lithuania from 160 to 440 almost. So Lithuania almost tripled, or 3.5 times more, whereas the growth in Estonia and Latvia was 20-30%, and also good, but Lithuania really stands out. And all 3 countries import more than they export, so it's about 3 times in Estonia, so 900 million imports, 300 exports, and in Latvia it's 200 versus 1,000 million, and in Lithuania it's 400 million exports, 440 million exports, and 1.7 billion imports. And that's exactly also what I'm hitting at. That's the potential. That's the potential to follow the German path, or to increase the exports to China, and to see what business opportunities are there, and how to do business. That's exactly why we have Max Butek here, and he will tell us a bit about the situation in China. And then the good news is that it's not going to end here. We're not going to do a theoretical webinar and then say goodbye to you after an hour or so, but we are here to really make it happen. So if you have plans to increase your exports or to start exporting at all, you can use us, we have 3 offices in the Baltics, so Tallinn, Riga, Vilnius, centrally located. You make an appointment, and then we get in touch. We work out what are exactly your needs, and then we make it happen together with the help of our colleagues in China, be it in Guangzhou, Shenzhen, Shanghai, Beijing, or wherever. Yeah. So see this, please, as a starting point, and we try to be here, really be a bridge. One side are we forming here in the Baltic states, where I'm the CEO of, and the other side is the AHK China, where Max Butek is sitting, and he will organize the work there. So yeah, Max, I hope everything is fine in Guangzhou and the weather is good, or a bit cloudy. Here sun is shining, but it's also raining, so it's changing all the time. And maybe that's a bit like you have. I don't know. Welcome, and the floor is yours. And if you have questions, please use the chat. Write them into the chat, and I will collect them, and we'll do a Q&A at the end. You can also keep them for the Q&A in the end, but if I might also take the liberty to interrupt Max if it's something which he can better explain or so, to make it worth it. So now I wish everybody a great information, infotainment with Max Butek.
Florian, thank you so much. It's a feeling of being like at home, as I used to be in your chamber for 2.5, 3 years around that. So thank you very much for this initiative to invite me today. And Violetta, thank you very much for organizing all of that. You gave me around 20 minutes to explain a continent, which is quite challenging. Nevertheless, as China is that large and that complex, I only can give you a very short overview of what I think might be interesting for you. But as Florian said, please use the chat function. Post your questions. There are no stupid questions. And then maybe Florian, you can give me a sign when I talk enough and when we have enough questions to go rather in an open discussion. All right. Now let's see. It should be moving now. And it does. All right. Looking at the overall economic data of China, we have a GDP of $13.5 trillion US dollars, which is a figure difficult to imagine. And we had the previous years basically always an average growth rate between 6% and 7%. We are not 100% certain whether the figures are correct, as there is a tendency to present nicer figures as they are. So especially in 2019, when the trade war between China and USA started, we expected in reality a little bit less growth. Nevertheless, still one of the huge economies which shows consistent growth. In 2020 Q1, so January until April, we had a decrease of -6.8. As you might be aware, the Corona crisis here started way earlier. We can say from January, where we had the complete lockdown for basically 3 weeks, where all the productions were not able to produce. There were barely people on the streets to see. So that's why Q1 might have hit us harder here than it is in Europe and the rest of the world, which is a little bit, which will come a little bit later to affect them. Here to give you an overview of China, And the flags you're seeing there are basically the GDPs compared to other countries of the provinces. You see, for example, the city Shanghai, which has basically a GDP of Thailand. You have Beijing, a GDP of Austria. The province of Guangdong, Guangzhou, where I'm sitting deep in the south, has the GDP of Australia. Sichuan of Switzerland. Yeah, I mean, you see it yourself. So when I thought about, like 10 years ago, about China, I knew that something is happening there, but I still believe that everyone is riding on bicycles and huge poverty, and it's only low-cost production, etc. But we can see here that the financial power is quite outstanding compared to other countries. As what Florian said, it is a continent, more or less. China, I'm not unfortunately not an expert in European history, though all of you are, as you used to live under the Soviet Union regime, which was also a socialist system, which we still have here in China. And China has clearly the strategy to have industry clusters. And with this map, by the way, I forgot to mention, you will get the presentation if you want to. Just shoot Violetta an email or whomever, and we can circulate that freely. What you can see, most of the clusters are very present on the east coast of China, while the west coast is quite undeveloped, if you want to call it like that. But yeah, most of the business is in the east, with a so-called tier cities. So we differentiate the different cities. We differentiate the different cities in tier 1, 2, 3, 4. That means the development. We have 4 tier 1 cities, which cities have the highest GDP, the highest salaries, the highest wages, the biggest markets, the best public transports, etc. We have 4 of them, which is Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen. Shenzhen is like 1.5 hours to drive south of Guangzhou, and with a train approximately 15 minutes to Hong Kong. That you get a better overview. When people ask me for which products do I have potentials, for which industries, and I only can say for everything. As China is so big, there is potential for really every product you could think of. But if you are specialized in machinery, in being suppliers for different industries, this map gives you a quite decent overview of where could be your biggest market. I try to move on. By the way, I cannot see the chat while I'm in the presentation mode. So if something is going wrong, Florian, just make yourself visible, please.
Yes, I will do so.
Perfect. All right. What Florian also said, I'm responsible for south and southwest of China. In South China, the so-called Pearl River Delta, or the Greater Bay Area, is probably one of the most important. You can see here on the map on the left, the Greater Bay Area is a governmental strategy to combine 9 cities into one mega city, so to say, quite easy. And there you have different clusters. You can see the small city between Guangzhou and Shenzhen, Dongguan, with more than 8 million people living there, Foshan on the other side. So, and each city has more or less a target group of companies they want to support. Guangzhou is service, for example. Hong Kong financials. Shenzhen is high-tech. High-tech in IT. Dongguan is manufacturing, etc. So in overall, the Greater Bay Area or the Pearl River Delta contributes around almost 10%, 9.1% to the overall GDP of China, as well as 30% of the exports coming from China, coming from the Greater Bay Area. And it was traditionally always the case that the Greater Bay Area was always the first area which was open for foreigners. So you have Guangzhou had the first harbor which got the license to export. Yeah, if you look into the history, by the way, Guangzhou is around 4,000 years old. Shenzhen 40 years ago, it was still a fisherman's village with 100,000 people. And now it is, the figures here I see, it's not 11.4, it's also around 15 million, 15 million people. Is one of the most modern cities in the world and counts as the Silicon Valley of Asia, or the hardware Silicon Valley of the world. Key competences in the Pearl River Delta. I don't know who of you had with China or got into a little bit. You can see some headquarters here in the south. Tencent is the owner of WeChat. WeChat is the Chinese version of WhatsApp. So to say, WhatsApp is blocked in China, you can't use it. ZTE is a huge battery factory. BYD is the market leader in electronic vehicles. Midea is one of the biggest home appliance suppliers, which also bought KUKA. In Germany, it was quite a big story. Maybe in the Baltics, not so much. And Huawei has its headquarters in Dongguan. Huawei, probably everyone knows. Again, the region is, for those companies, very interesting because normally they have their small headquarters in Hong Kong as they are listed there on the stock exchange, but they have their real operations in mainland China as the connection is very good. At the moment, not. You can't travel due to the travel restrictions, but in general, before and after COVID, it was quite easy to travel forth and back. So that is one of the reasons why those companies are here. Tencent, by the way, has a market value higher than Siemens. Even you might never have heard of it. It's one of the top 4 internet companies in the world. Chinese features, quite relevant. The construction of the mega airport in Beijing took only 4 years. A good comparison is the German airport in Berlin-Brandenburg, which, I don't know, Florian, maybe you know how many years, 7, 8 years already, and still not ready. You can...
Please don't mention it.
Okay, all right. The whole country is basically connected by high-speed trains, which have an average speed of 250 to 350 kilometers per hour. Mobile payments last 3 seconds. You have 2 mobile payment providers, which is Tencent and Alibaba. And to be honest, I thought when I went through this presentation today, I think I touched the last time Chinese cash, yuan, 1.5 years ago. It only happened once that someone didn't accept mobile payment. That was a freelancer who did something in my flat. But otherwise, even the beggars on the street offer WeChat payment. I'm not kidding. So for me, it's more difficult to pay with cash than with mobile money. Also, here the big companies one should have heard of. WeChat, Alipay for mobile payment. E-commerce, you have basically 2 platforms, which is JD.com and Alibaba with Taobao. the shop. You have food delivery, Meituan, which is like incredible. It's all over China in the last villages, and you can order everything basically. It's super fast, and therefore retail shops, supermarkets, etc., are not really used anymore. Of course, they still exist. Local markets still exist, but the majority, I'd say, does food delivery, but also supermarket shopping, etc., via Meituan. Then live streaming TikTok, the competitor of, I don't know, Instagram or YouTube. You probably read that this is the new trend, which was growing so fast. Online car hailing, Didi, for example. Didi is the Chinese Uber, which is quite interesting history, as Uber was in the market, and Didi set up a competitor, and then Didi bought Uber because Uber had no chance in China, as they simply didn't understand that they can't drive an American system, but had to adopt to the Chinese system, and that's why they failed basically. The same, by the way, with happened to Yahoo and eBay, who was then also kicked out of the market by Alibaba, as they simply didn't understand that if they want to make business in China, they have to be Chinese. Their behavior at least. Market entry in China, there are probably more ways, though the most common are you are looking for a sales partner here, for a distributor. There are plenty. It's not easy to find them. We can help you, of course, but you have to be careful that the company is a serious, a reliable company, also has a network. You can do direct sales from the Baltics, but this is only possible basically if you provide products which are highly sought after, and no one else can offer it. Then you can sell it directly from the Baltics. Exhibition trade fairs. Here is the biggest trade fair in China is the Canton Fair here in Guangzhou, twice a year, where all Chinese companies are basically exhibiting, waiting for partnerships for foreigners. But also the CIIE, the China International Import Exhibition in Shanghai, once a year, where Chinese importers, so to say, are the visitors, and the foreign companies are the exhibitors to find partners. This is still a very good way in China to do business. Currently not. The Canton Fair was done virtually, and it's always difficult to get real information in China, but one heard that it was a total fail. As virtual trade fairs are still difficult to execute. You can have a sales representative office. So you establish your own company, but you also can go into joint ventures. This is mainly if you deal with government agencies. They will force you going into joint ventures with a Chinese partner to establish yourself here, which is also very important. You have to be in the market. It is impossible for you to pop in and go out. You won't have success. You need people on the ground here who speak Chinese, who understand the Chinese, and who are also able to build relationships, as in China. But from my experience in the Baltics, personal relation goes over everything. So one needs to be in the network. But we also can help you with this without you having to invest huge amounts. One special field is e-commerce. I'd like to point out. Those figures are from 2016. As I said, it's difficult to get data, but of the overall e-commerce trading, 42% happens in China. In 2018, it was already 53%. So that gives you a hint probably that e-commerce is by far the most important sales channel here, which is not quite easy, as you only have two platforms, as I said, Alibaba with Taobao and JD.com. but with smart ways, one can still generate sales while there. And you also see here the growth rate, at least the forecast from 2019 of e-commerce in China. It's mainly B2C, and you also can see there the products and industries. All right, very briefly, Florian, probably I have two more minutes. So
you do.
We offer more or less the same services as the colleagues in the Baltic states. So that's what Florian mentioned also. If you need support from us, it will be the easiest if you approach colleagues in Estonia, Latvia, or Lithuania directly, because they know exactly what we can do and what we can't. So you get a first-hand advisory in the respective language, German, English, Lithuanian, Latvian, etc. What's quite special here, we established during the Corona, we already saw it like in February, March, that this crisis will spread and it will last. As you can't travel at the moment, we created the AHK Sales Accelerator, which basically gives you the chance to employ a Chinese salesperson who is acting under your company name with your business cards, under your direct control. They will report directly to you, but we take them on our payroll. You have to pay, but we take care of everything of this stuff. He sits with our colleagues here. He gets the IT am I still online?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, because it says I logged out. Okay, let's try. So we can offer you that you have your representation here without without that you have to establish your own company, which is quite cost intensive, and of course it takes time. You need lots of knowledge. You need lots of cash, and you have high risks. We do everything for you: the recruitment, the controlling, the travel approvals, the whatever. And with this way, you have on a quite cheap invest someone here who represents you. And then all the other services basically also provided by the Baltic states AHKs, or AHK as it is one. All right, I think I'm good in the time. Maybe yeah, that's for now, and let's see whether there are questions, Florian.
Yeah, so far there. Thanks, Max, for your presentation. Very well done. I think a good first overview. In the chat, there was only one remark to please send the presentation to the email. So far, no questions. But let's check. Maybe somebody wants to raise the hand or ask in person. I know. Don't be shy. It's a unique opportunity to have Max here and ask. There's no stupid question. So yeah, please think of one. I can. I want to draw your attention to the. Also, Max mentioned the fairs, and I don't know. Can you play into the Violetta, the German trade fairs in China, because you know the fair business already is globalizing, and there's also some interesting fairs happening in China. So we have, for example, the laser fair, which is taking place right now, the Laser World, in the next days from the 3rd to the 5th July. And we have the China Fruit Logistica, where we find a new date, and the Bao China, which is planned for October, November, end of 29th of October, 1st of November this year. So I see there's some questions coming. Are there any specifics specifics for software export to China?
So probably import from China, I guess.
No, export to China from Baltics. Maybe you've forgotten, but the Baltics are IT hotspot as well, and so they want to export software to China.
Yeah, no, I get that, but export regulations from the Baltics to China, I don't know. But import regulations to China from Baltic software, it highly depends. It depends on the type of software. There are lists where you can see whether it's an acceptable software or not, and then also for which products. So you can export software to China under the regulations which there exist. China has huge regulations. One has to look into detail which software it is, and yeah.
So now another question about the software topic. If our product is software for drones, what would be the best channel to get into China and sell?
Yeah, good question. Also there, it depends probably for what kind of drones. Is it market consumer drones? Is it for the manufacturer of drones, etc.? Drones are a huge topic here, as you know. Also, I know in Germany there is, for example, DJI registered with a huge European headquarters. So it would be easy to contact them, but maybe you can type quickly to whom you want to sell. Who is your customer? Is it your end customer or is it one of the drone manufacturers? Maybe we can come back also to that question.
Yeah. What does GPR stand for? Yeah, good. Can AHK act as a sales representative office, ground penetrating radar? Okay, good. I think with the drone question, maybe we should look into it. If it's a real question and you see a market, why don't? Yeah, let's see if we can support you there. So now we have another one. Can AHK act as a sales representative office?
Yeah, no, we cannot act as a sales representative office, but you can still remain the original company, but you can have a colleague or staff which we employ who acts on your behalf. The only reason or the only disadvantage would be that all bills, all invoices has to come from your headquarter from one of the Baltic countries. So but that's not a problem. You just your staff here, who is officially our employee, can't issue invoices on your behalf. As for this, you need a business license, which you need to have a registered company here. Yeah, and regarding drone software, I mean, there are plenty of drone manufacturers here. So also there, one should have a survey which companies are acting there. There's also like a lot potential probably for the industrial consumers. So as far as I know, there's not such a clear market leader here as it is in the B2C market for drones. So one has basically in almost every city developers who are developing the drones, and one has to find them and approach them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. Do you have any advice on how to recognize legit small China market, small businesses? Maybe there's tools like websites.
Yeah. Yeah, there is, I can't remember what it is in the Baltic states, but there are official registers where you can check whether the company exists, whether it's registered, and then also we work with a other agency there together to have financial statements and a financial financial report of this company, which is always important. Companies here are always registered under their Chinese name in Chinese letters, so you won't find information in English, only in Chinese. But then it's relatively easy to find out whether it's a legit business or not.
But is that already safe